So, at the end of my last video, I had said we were going to start talking about anger and what that looks like for me. And I was going to do that, but then I remembered today is actually the 2-year anniversary of my diagnosis. So, I decided to change it up a little bit and kind of talk about how that ended up happening. I'm going to go into this more in depth later, but as sort of a brief overview, this is kind of what happened, especially for anyone thinking they might be autistic and wanting to figure out, hey, how does the diagnosis process work? Here's a kind of step-by-step video. Um, so I've been thinking I might be autistic for a while. Well, actually, at the time, what I was looking at was Asperger's, because that's what I knew about. I think when I was 11 was probably the first time that I heard something that made me go, well, hey, that does kind of sound like me. So I asked my mom about it, and she said she had thought that, yeah, maybe I was when I was little, but because I make good eye contact, she had never really pursued that further. So I kind of let it go, but it was always in the back of my mind. And then when I started high school, I started hearing more stuff about it, and I was like, well, hey, this really does sound like me, but I didn't like do anything about it for a while. Then my junior year of high school, I decided, you know what the heck? I'm not homeschooling anymore. I'm going to a school and it has a counseling center, so I'll get in touch with the counseling center and see what they say. So I emailed them. I was like, hey, I'm a student here. I think I have Asperger's, but I don't really know where to go from here. So, do you guys have any resources? What do I do to figure this out? So they actually sent me an email back and told me to look up this place, the Autism Society of Oregon. And so I went to this place's website, and they had a list of Asperger's symptoms, as well as noting that it's now just under the umbrella of autism. And they didn't say level 1. I didn't hear level 1 until the psychologist, but I digress. So I looked at this list of Asperger's symptoms that they had, and it was like going through a checklist. I was like, yep, those are all me, okay, except for like 1 or 2. So I told my mom, like, you gotta look at this list, and she read it over and was like, okay, let's get you tested. So we talked to my pediatrician. We kind of went over, like, these are my symptoms, I've been sort of mulling this over for a while, but I haven't done anything about it before, and I decided to look into it. And when we talked to her about all that, she told us, like, yes, that's definitely worth looking into. She referred us to a really great, I think he was a psychiatrist. Yeah, he would have been a psychiatrist. I actually don't know. Anyway, but he was obviously legit. Worked with a college, but also had a practice. And anyway, he was really great. So he squeezed me into we got in contact with him. He squeezed me into his schedule. And we got a date to get me evaluated, because my family was also like in the process of moving to Ohio, which we lived in Oregon at the time. We were moving to Ohio, so there was a lot that had to be taken care of. So he squeezed me in the week before we moved. And what that looked like, first it was a phone interview. He called me up and was like, okay, I want to talk to you a little bit over the phone. Tell me symptoms you've noticed, what makes you think about that you might have this, all this stuff. So I was saying, like, yeah, this is something I've thought about for a while. I've always been really awkward, but I do really well in school, and I had like a thing about textures, and I'm really sensitive to noises that no one else seems to even hear sometimes. And sorry, it's hot out, so I'm anyway. Where was I? Yes. So after that was over, he was like, okay, let's fit you in. We went to his office, and he talked to me and my mom together first, which took probably half an hour, and then he took me back to a room to talk. Or no, we were going to the room so he could talk to me and mom, and then me. And this is just kind of a funny little side thing, but as if he hadn't heard enough symptoms already, he told me like, okay, so it's gonna be the first open door to your right. Well, I heard first open door, and let's be honest, I was a little nervous because I don't know what is this all going to entail. So I was so focused on first open door that I actually just looked in the first open door I saw, which happened to be to my left. So he was like, no, it's this one. And so that actually didn't get noted in his report, but I really thought it was going to, because like that's obviously a coordination issue. And I have other problems with left and right, but that was just a funny thing that happened during the eval process. Um so yeah, let's see. He asked if I was aware of any like complications during mom's pregnancy with me and any issues during the birth, and mom was like, no, there weren't, and I was like, I've never heard of any, so that's good. And then mom left, and I talked to him in private for, I think it was 3 or 4 hours. Some of it was just like, how are you with people? How do you do in school? Please elaborate on the symptoms you mentioned to me earlier, and all that stuff. Some of it was like, there were a lot of IQ tests and impulse control tests and different tests for things. So arrange these blocks into this pattern. I'm going to read this list of words out to you. I'm going to ask you to repeat them backwards and forwards and what have you. There was stuff about like hit a button when you see everything except X. Different things like that. It was actually kind of fun. Making the patterns again, and hitting the buttons and whatnot. But then my mom came back and he talked to her alone for about an hour, and then we went home, and then we moved across the country. That was crazy, happening in the midst of all of that. So I'm this whole week we're moving across the country. I'm very stressed, and I'm also like panically checking my phone every day as soon as we have some kind of internet connection, like, because he said he was going to email me a link to a secure site where I could view the diagnosis. So I was checking for a week, like, oh, did I get it? No. Did I get the diagnosis? Did I get the... So finally, it was actually the day we arrived in Ohio. We got the email to the secure site to view the diagnosis, and it was really long. There was a lot of stuff, just all the things. Here's your IQ. Here's your, I think it was like emotional intelligence quotient. Also, just all these different things. And finally, on the very last of these like 8 pages, there it was. Level 1 autism spectrum disorder. And I bawled right there in the car. Because I was so happy about that. I mean, finally, I had clarity. Because there had been going through some stuff that was like unexplainable. I couldn't figure out why am I reacting to this way, and it was getting much more pronounced. I think like my social life had been expanding, which also meant that my awareness of my difficulties with social interaction was being painfully brought to my attention more and more, which had gotten really frustrating. So when I got this diagnosis, it was such a relief. Like, oh, thank goodness, there's a reason I'm this way. I'm not just weird, I guess, was kind of where I was at with that. So I'm not weird, I'm not crazy. There's an actual explanation for my life and how I process things. So, shout out to, I don't think I should probably name you guys, but shout out to my pediatrician and that psychiatrist. Thank you very much for helping me get the clarity I needed. My next video, I promise I will actually start talking about anger, but hey, it's my 2-year anniversary, and I wanted to clarify a bit of the diagnosis process, I guess. Hope this helps.